Chapter 7 The King and the Duke. After our adventure with the gang, Jim and I decided to take it easy for a while and spend a few days in the woods. I told him what had happened inside the wreck and on shore. He said that when he discovered the raft was gone, he nearly died. He figured it was all over for him anyway. If no one saved him, he would be sure to drown. And if someone found him, they would take him back to the village to get the reward. Then Miss Watson would sell him down south for sure. I knew he was right about all that, and we both realized how lucky we'd been. After a few days in the woods, we got back on the raft and headed down the river once again. Sometimes we'd have that whole river to ourselves for the longest time. It's lovely to live on a raft. We had the sky up there, all speckled with stars, and we would lay on our backs looking up at them and discussing whether they were made or only just happened. Jim was sure the stars were made, but I said I thought they just happened. Once or twice during the night, we would see a steamboat slipping along in the dark. Now and then it would belch a whole world of sparks out of its chimneys, and the sparks would rain down on the river. Then the boat would turn a bend, and its lights would wink out. A long time after the steamboat was gone, the waves would get used to us and jog on the raft a bit. Then there would be nothing but silence. One morning, about daybreak, I found a canoe drifting near the main shore. I got into it and paddled over to the shore to look for berries. After I landed, I was following a cow path across the creek when I saw a couple of men run towards me. I was about to run in the other direction, but they called out to me. "Save us, please save us," they cried. "We haven't done anything wrong, but we're being chased by men and dogs." I felt sorry for them, so I led them back to the canoe. We climbed aboard, and as I rowed, I studied the two men. One of them was about 70 years old. He had a bald head and very gray whiskers. The other fellow was about 30 and pretty ordinary looking. Both men's clothes were all wrinkled but fancy looking, and they carried big fat carpet bags. I rowed them out to the raft where we all had breakfast. Then we relaxed and talked. The first thing that came out was that these two fellows didn't know each other, but both had gotten into trouble. The bald-headed man had been selling medicine that was supposed to take the tartar off people's teeth. The trouble was that it took off the enamel along with it. The younger man had been running temperance meetings where he lectured folks about the evil of drinking. The people loved him, and he had been making up to $10 a night. Then he got caught drinking himself, and he had to run for his life. Well, the two men got to talking, and they decided that they should team up in business and travel up and down the river together. They began making all sorts of plans. Suddenly, in the middle of their conversation, the younger man began to weep. "My poor heart is broken," he cried, "for I have fallen so low from such a high position in life." Then he cleared his throat, wiped the corner of his eye with a rag, and said solemnly, "Gentlemen, I reveal a great secret to you all. By rights, I am a duke. My my great-grandfather, the eldest son of the Duke of Bridgewater, came to this country at the end of the last century. His younger brother stayed in England and seized the duke's title and staked upon the noble's death, and even though they should have passed on my grandfather, my father and me. So you see, I'm the rightful Duke of Bridgewater. But here I am, forlorn, torn from my high estate, despised by the cold world, ragged, worn, heartbroken, and living on a raft." Jim pitied him ever so much. So did I. We tried to comfort him, but it wasn't much use. All he asked was that we bow to him, wait on him, and call him "Your Grace" or "My Lord." Then he added that plain "Bridgewater" would be okay too. Well, that was easy, so we did it. All through dinner we stood around and waited on him. After a while the other man, the old bald-headed one, got pretty quiet. He didn't seem to like all the special treatment the Duke was getting. "Looky here, Bilgewater," he said. "I'm sorry for you, but you aren't the only person with these troubles. You see, I too have a secret, Bilgewater. I am a king. I am Louis the 17, son of Louis the 16 and Mary Antoinette of France." "You? At your age?" cried the Duke. "That's impossible. You must be the late Charlemagne, for you look at least 600 or 700 years old." "Trouble has done it, Bilgewater. Trouble has brought these gray hairs and this premature baldness," sobbed the old man. "Well, he cried and carried on, so that Jim hardly knew what to do. We felt for him, but we felt proud too. It isn't every day that ordinary people get to meet royalty. Then the king asked that we treat him special too. He wanted to be called Your Majesty, and to be waited on at all meals. So Jim and I started treating him special too. All this got the Duke pretty upset. He wanted to be the only special one, but now he had to share everything with the king. Still, the king acted real friendly towards him and said that all the dukes of Bilgewater were thought a good deal by his father, Louis XVI. The duke stayed huffy a good while, till by and by the king said, "Like it or not, we've got to be together on this raft for a long time. What's the use of you being so sour? We got a good thing going here, plenty of food and an easy life. Let's shake hands and be friends." The duke shook his hand, and Jim and I were pretty glad to see it. It would have been uncomfortable to have any bad feelings on a raft. The most important thing is for everyone to be friendly and feel right and kind towards each other. It didn't take me long to make up my mind that these men weren't kings or dukes at all. They were just low-down, lying frauds. But I decided it would be best not to say a word about it. That way there'd be no quarrels, and no one would get into any trouble. If they wanted us to call them kings and dukes, I had no objections. As long as it kept peace in the family, I didn't mind. There was no sense in telling Jim either. He was so excited about knowing royalty and all, it would only make him feel badly if he knew these two were fakes. About the only thing I ever learned from Pap was to let certain kinds of people have their own way.